Intrigue. That's the key word when we delve into the Bible's stance on abortion. As we unfold this topic, it's essential to understand that the Bible doesn't explicitly mention abortion. Yes, you heard right. The sacred text that has guided billions of people through their spiritual journeys does not directly address one of the most controversial topics of our time. Why, then, is there so much debate surrounding the Bible's stance on this issue? The answer lies in the interpretation. The biblical prohibitions against killing and the sanctity of human life form the cornerstone of one perspective. Advocates for this view argue that these principles inherently condemn abortion, treating it as a form of murder. Their argument hinges on the belief that any innocent human life, including that of a fetus from the moment of conception, deserves protection. On the other hand, there are those who interpret certain biblical passages differently. For instance, Exodus 21:22-23, a verse that has sparked countless discussions, is interpreted by some to suggest that the unborn are not considered victims of murder. The debate also revolves around whether a fetus is considered a nephesh, an independently breathing human, or an Adam, a human being. It's crucial to note that these interpretations vary among religious communities. They're not monolithic, and this diversity of thought influences the ongoing ethical and legal debates surrounding abortion. The Bible's stance, or at least our understanding of it, plays a significant role in shaping societal norms, laws, and individual beliefs. So let's dive deeper into these interpretations and make sense of this complex issue. First up, we have the pro-life interpretation. Diving deep into the pro-life perspective, we find that advocates of this viewpoint interpret biblical teachings as strongly opposing abortion. They believe that the sanctity of human life, as underscored by the Bible, condemns the act of abortion as murder. This belief is anchored on the biblical prohibitions against killing, which extend to all forms of human life. In the pro-life interpretation, the fetus is not merely an organism in the early stages of development, but a life with inherent value and worth. Pro-life advocates argue that the fetus, from the moment of conception, is either considered a nephesh, an independently breathing human, or an Adam, a human being. This interpretation underscores the belief that any innocent human life deserves protection, regardless of its stage of development. The sanctity of life, as inscribed in the Bible, extends to the unborn, giving them the right to life and growth. Moreover, pro-life advocates assert that scientific evidence supports the humanity of a fetus from conception, further solidifying their interpretation of biblical teachings. They argue that the biological development of a fetus, from its earliest stages, demonstrates the presence of a unique, living human being. At the heart of the pro-life interpretation is the conviction that every life is valuable, deserving of protection and respect. This conviction extends to the unborn, who are viewed as innocent and vulnerable human beings. That's the pro-life interpretation. Now let's explore the pro-choice perspective. Next, we turn our attention to the pro-choice interpretation. Now let's delve into a different perspective, one that interprets the Bible through a pro-choice lens. This viewpoint hinges on a different interpretation of certain biblical passages, such as Exodus 21:22-23. In this passage, the text speaks of a scenario where a man causes a woman to miscarry. Rather than prescribing the death penalty, which would be the case for murder, the text suggests a fine. Pro-choice advocates interpret this to mean that the Bible does not consider the unborn to be victims of murder in the same sense as born individuals. Another critical point of debate arises in the Hebrew language used in the Bible. Two words, nephesh and Adam, are used to describe humans. Nephesh refers to an independently breathing human, and Adam is a term for a human being in a broader sense. The question then arises, is a fetus, which does not breathe independently, considered a nephesh or an Adam? Pro-choice advocates argue that the fetus does not qualify as a nephesh until it is capable of independent breath. They suggest that the Bible does not assign the same value to the unborn as it does to a born individual, hence supporting the pro-choice stance. It's important to note that these interpretations are not universally accepted and are intensely debated within and among religious communities. These interpretations, like many others, depend heavily on one's perspective and understanding of the text, and that's the pro-choice interpretation. As you can see, this is a complex issue with no easy answers. We've explored various interpretations, each with its own nuances. The Bible's stance on abortion is not as straightforward as one might think. Some argue that the sanctity of life, as presented in the Bible, condemns abortion as murder. They assert that a fetus from conception is an innocent human life deserving of protection. On the other hand, others interpret specific biblical passages differently, suggesting that the unborn may not be considered victims of murder. This interpretation hinges on whether a fetus is regarded as a nephesh, an independently breathing human, or an Adam, a human being. These differing viewpoints not only illustrate the complexity of the issue, but also highlight how these interpretations shape the ethical and legal debates surrounding abortion. It's a topic that continues to spark passionate discussions and differing viewpoints, each influenced by personal beliefs, religious communities, and interpretations of biblical teachings. And that's the beauty of discourse, isn't it? We can all learn from each other, even if we don't always agree. If you found this video useful, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this important topic.